Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Fantasy Football University. FFU coming at you yet again in the off season, coming at you with more review on the finishers from 2025. I'm Mr. Bill DeCousis. I'm here this time, like Mr. Lang. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. We took a little bit of a hiatus for these 2025 finishers, but it was warranted. It was warranted for a little bit. We needed a little break, but then also we needed to talk about some controversial stuff. Then we also had to have a show that basically just broke down all the breaking news that happened all in one day,
Oh,
pretty much for
absolutely.
free and frenzy. And we need to cover a little bit more before we get into the top 12 quarterbacks. But yeah, good to be back.
Yeah, it's very good to be back. We're happy to have you guys with us. It's been basically in free agency, we kind of touched on this in the last episode. This portion of free agency completely blows out of the water. The trade deadline during the middle of the season, it's not even close. This is way more exciting, way more moves happen. So we covered everything. Please check out our last show to cover everything that we covered up until basically last week. But there's been stuff that have happened since since last week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
let
and positive things for the Jets actually as well too.
yeah, I'm gonna bring up my awful team. Let's save them. Let's get to the top of the thing, the most consequential supposedly for the NFL. So Kyler has now signed a 1-year deal with the Minnesota Vikings,
Mhm.
hopefully causing Justin Jefferson to not cause a ruckus and up and leave because of horrific quarterback play. I love the idea that Kevin O'Connell is suggesting that it's going to be an equal quarterback competition between Kyler Murray and Nine, as we like to call him, as he likes to call himself.
Good
Do you
good luck with that one. That's
do you think
that's
that
just
that's coach speak, or do you think it's an actual thing? Like that they're
it's a
gonna.
motivational thing to see if maybe Nine actually starts performing in the off season and takes it to the next level because, you would hope that the team would invest into him deeply. Maybe they'll keep him there and have him play behind Kyler until Kyler gets all COD'd up and then he goes, then Nine goes back in there.
Do you think Kyler is going to be? We're going to be talking about this all off season, but just early thoughts on it. Do you think Kyler's going to be good enough to support Justin Jefferson being top tier again?
I mean, he was when he was playing well, Kyler was a top five quarterback in the NFL, in
His
fantasy.
highs are very high. Yeah.
So and going to a coach that is basically a quarterback whisperer, I really think that, if Kyler is setting his mind right, this could be a fantastic finisher for his career and for the Minnesota Vikings. And if this does not work, I'm telling you that Justin Jefferson is saying bye bye, getting the out of there real quick. Caught myself.
Well,
He's
he's
getting
not
out of
gonna.
there.
I mean, he's been a very dutiful, good player. He's been loyal to the city, etc. He's been saying all the right things, presumably. I mean,
But he wants to win.
he
He
does
wants
want.
to win.
Do you
He's
realize that they
not,
finished 9-8 last year, by the way?
yeah.
It's hard to forget. It's hard to remember
Because
that. I should
because
say.
I mean, it's hard to remember that, but I mean, it's not hard to ever remember like forget their defense. Their defense is just stout. Like it doesn't matter. They've had some really bad games defensively, but like their defense is a very, very put together, well put together defense.
And Kevin O'Connell's a great coach. Good
Yeah.
scheming, etc. So yeah, I'll be. Let's just assume, forget the coach speak. Let's just assume Kyler Murray is going to be the starting quarterback. I do. I feel a hell of a lot better about um what's going on with Justin Jefferson. I'll feel better about all the options in general.
Mhm.
Um, Now as far as their running back situation, I mean, we'll see how that changes in the offseason, but it looks like it's going to be Jordan Mason with himself. I doubt that's going to last. We'll see
Well,
how that
no.
goes.
Well, they re-signed Aaron Jones. They
Eh,
restructured his contract.
Aaron Jones he's getting a little bit too old now for it to be.
He's always been an injury prone guy, and but I could see them obviously throwing him back in the mix, and they're restructuring him for a reason. He's not going anywhere else. So
Yeah. All right, so let's jump to some of the other news that we missed. There was a lot of running back news. So and Tommy, feel free to jump in if I miss anything. Top of mind for us is we almost alluded to the fact that Rashad White was going to be going to Seattle. That did not happen. Rashad White has since gone to the Washington Commanders and is going to be a running back there. Not sure if that's going to be the only move. I know you were saying that you think Austin Eckler might be back for another year. That's what you're suggesting for the.
Well, with Rashad White signing there, I don't know if it makes sense for them to re-sign him there. I mean, Debo Samuel is still a free agent, so that's fairly interesting. Maybe they're trying to restructure a contract to make it, suitable for the team there. Because he's a multi-diversal player. Um, so I don't know. I
Well,
think
who
that
as
I
of
think
right
that's it.
now, as of right now, who's the leading running back for Washington next year?
Rashad White.
You think it's Rashad White? Okay, not
Yeah, there's no
JCM.
way. There's
Yeah.
no way that JCM actually, unless him and Nine are working out together in the offseason,
Ugh.
trying to be the best that they can be, which I highly doubt. So,
Speaking of Washington Commanders esque, so former darling of mostly Tommy, but both of ours, Chris Rodriguez, has departed the Washington Commanders and is now, uh, let's call it co-starting running backs in Jacksonville along with Bayshaw Tootin. That's going to be an interesting backfield to break down. I'll bet you Chris Rodriguez is going to be like late round target for us because he's going to be a touchdown vulture for everybody who's a Bayshaw Tootin truther.
yeah.
Um, I like the move for him. I hope that they don't.
Honestly, I like that move for the wide receivers. I think that's going to be fantastic because that just shows that they're going to really just try to run it up the middle as much as
Yeah,
they
confidence
can.
level.
No dump, yeah, no dump offs, no, not many dump offs to the running back position, and a lot of it is going to go to the wide receivers and the pass catchers over there.
I wonder if they're higher on the list in terms of drafting a running back. Maybe this mitigates that to some degree. We'll see. Well, Bayshaw Tutin's a good pass catcher himself, so
It's decent.
maybe they'll, yeah, maybe they will. Maybe they'll focus more on that with Chris Rodriguez in there. We'll see. Some more news at the running back position. So, um, Jeremiah Love, by the way, who's let's just call it, he's probably going to be the first running back drafted. The odds right now, I was looking at it, almost certainly is going to be going to Tennessee. So the rumor mill there is that they're going to do something with Tony Pollard or Tajay Spears. I'm not sure where they're going to end up, but keep an eye on that going forward. Um, any other news? I know we were kind of talking
Yeah,
pre-game.
Emmanuel Wilson
Oh, and the Emmanuel Wilson,
signs.
yeah.
Yeah, he signs with the Seattle Seahawks in place of Super Bowl winning MVP um, Kenneth Glasswalker.
I
So
bet you they signed somebody else there too. I mean,
they'll
uh,
probably go young and draft somebody.
maybe, maybe. I mean, so now in Green Bay, now I can't believe we actually got to this point. So you got Josh Jacobs, and then presumably his backup is going to be finally out the woodwork, Marshawn Lloyd.
Yeah.
Finally, if we'll see if that ever turns into something. It's been an internet sensation for the past 2 years. So see if
Got
it.
two other ones I want to talk about, and
Sure.
then obviously we could get deep into the weeds with the top 12 quarterbacks. But Jalen Waddle gets traded to the
That's
Broncos.
right.
I think that's fantastic for the Broncos. I think that hurts the stock of not Franklin. I think that hurts the stock of Sutton. That's a very
Oh,
clear
absolutely.
indicator that I think Sutton is basically um, you know, he may be on the trade block potentially. So I think that that could be a move that's made whether it's mid-season because they may not need him. So we'll see about that. I think Jalen Waddle is still a very, very high valued player. Same kind of player as Sutton, but more versatile, more of a deep threat. I think he's a really good he could be a really good asset to that offense. And then I think this what Justin Fields, the Jets making finally like a good move, trading Justin Fields to the Chiefs. I think that obviously is I think that right there, that kind of play move right there is showing you that Patrick Mahomes is not going to be back for the first at least 5, 6 weeks.
I don't
Justin
know.
Fields, Justin Fields is going to be the starting quarterback for that team. The first couple weeks. And, they're going to lean towards the run. So Kenneth Walker is going to have a massive, massive value. Problem with that is Kenneth Walker is going to get hurt.
I was waiting for that. I don't know. I don't know. Patrick Mahomes will fight hook or by crook to get himself, back
No,
and raring to
I
go. But
really feel that they invested highly on a running back to, put the team on the back of the running back the first couple weeks of the season, and then they can lose 3, 4 games to start the season and come back and have a fantastic end of the year, and win that division potentially. So
Yeah, but they've had their highest levels of success when they had some dynamic play out of their running back position. The Kareem Hunts back in the day, Jerick McKinnons of the world, etc. That's to, from an offensive standpoint, that's when they were at their best. So if they have a dynamic playmaker there, it does help, considering how aged out Travis Kelce is and whatever else they're going to do at the wide receiver position. So yeah,
well, how Hollywood Brown signs a deal with the Eagles, so he's no longer there.
right. Well,
Mr. PPR monster, right?
uh, I don't, maybe not. I don't know. It remains to be seen what they're going to do. Again, the rumor mill there is that Tyreek Hill is going to end up there, back there. We'll see if that comes to fruition. I don't know. You really believe that Justin Fields is going to be taking some starting games uh,
Justin Fields is going to
this year?
start. Count me on this right now. I'm putting this on paper. Paper, video, everywhere.
Yeah.
Make a short out of it and everything. Justin Fields will be the starting quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs at minimum 3 weeks. For
Okay.
minimum 3 weeks this
Minimum three.
upcoming year.
Well, we'll mark it right down. There it is. So, what do you think about the vacuum then going on in Miami? So now with Malik Willis
Well,
taking
they
over
got
as
the perfect
quarterback.
team to tank.
Is that the yeah, I suppose that's the narrative online. Well, they're gonna get who's he gonna throw to at all? Anybody? Is Waller gonna be back or is he going back to
You
his
got
rap career?
Washington, you got Tolbert, you got Tutu Atwell's there too.
Maybe. We'll see. If Waller comes back, I'll say he might end up being a late round value type of thing because
Waller's not going back there.
we'll see.
Waller's like everybody's getting out of here. Devon Achane's like, get me out of here. I'm gonna get killed this year.
He's the only thing of value. The only
Yeah,
thing.
that I am more worried about him than I'm worried about Ken Glass Walker this year. I think Achane is gonna be overly drafted. He's gonna be the top 3 running back coming off the board this year,
Oh, I don't
most
know
likely.
about that.
I think he's going to be a top 3 because of his usage. The problem with his usage is we know what happens when he gets used really, really heavily. It does not look good.
He managed to to skate through it last year, but maybe at some point it catches
When
up
you're
with
the
him.
only player on the field,
He really is the only talent left on that team, which is unbelievable. It's unbelievable what they've
I
done.
I can't believe they. I mean, cutting Tyreek Hill is fine, but I cannot believe that they traded Waddle. I cannot believe they did that.
Maybe they think
He was literally their wide receiver corner piece. That's it.
maybe that's it then. Maybe that's, they're just moving on. Same thing. Maybe Winters is only a 1 year coach and then they move on. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they do. Any other news come across the desk? Or you want to jump right in here?
Now let's jump right in. Let's talk about some players that may not have we may have not thought would finish here.
Yeah, so right as we get into the 2020 finishers at quarterback, I don't have the stat in front of me. We'll cover it again when we get a little bit farther into the offseason. Just to reiterate the point with you guys about how much we are on the train of get your quarterback late, um, and just being kind of anti onesie position. There's a lot of mathematical reasons on there. Case in point, again, I'm going to get the stats slightly wrong, but there's something between somewhere around 35 to 40 quarterbacks every single year finish as a top 12 quarterback at some point throughout the season, which means that you could get away with streaming and or having a quarterback for a couple of weeks or their hot weeks, etc. And when we go through the top 12 here, we're going to be also mentioning some interesting mentions later on that like totally fall into that category. For
Yeah.
example, like just to preview it, my favorite player from last year was Tyler Shook, who basically won me a title because of how great he was towards the end of the season last year. And we could come up with other names too. We'll get to when we talk about Jacoby Brissett, etc.
Yeah, and,
So,
and talking about like the drafting early, draft some of these quarterbacks early. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously you draft Josh Allen, that's fantastic, but the problem is you're missing out on the key components that you needed at that. Josh Allen is a player that you trade for midseason, when he's having a down week or something like that, when the team is not looking rough. Because it happens every single year. A
right.
player is going to get a little discouraged. You're going to be able to win off a trade that way. Just look at it. I mean, and we'll go through it, but like there's 3 out of the 12. So 3 out of the 12 players were top five quarterbacks ADP. Outside of that, um, it was like 7, 8, and above. So
Right.
you could wait on these players. The 7, 8, and above, those were like sixth round, seventh round, early. No, that's early still. Um, but Dak Prescott, Bo Nix, Drake May, Stafford, probably undrafted. So like there's a lot of players that are on this list, which we'll go over and we'll talk about, like, will they do it again? Does their system seem like it's going to be the right system moving forward for 2026, 2027? You know, but they did it, some of these players did it. And Dak was my target guy.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on Tommy's point there, so like Josh Allen, again, I don't have this particular stat in front of me either. He's finished as the number one or the number two quarterback every year since 2019, I believe it is. Um, he's as consistent gets, and obviously he finishes at number one. But just to put it in perspective, so yeah, you drafted him as the quarterback one, he finishes the quarterback one. You always have to consider the opportunity cost. So did he return value on your pick? If you just judge it by, yeah, well, he finished at one, then by that definition, sure. But for you to have given up a top tier running back or wide receiver to have drafted him, he would have had to finish leagues above everybody else, which is not the case. So, for example, his total points is 374, about 30 ahead of Drake May, who you could have grabbed off the free agent list, who finishes at the quarterback too. At the quarterback position, yeah, that's a couple points a game, 1 or 2 points a game, fine, but it's not like it was absolutely leagues and mountains above everybody else. So you need to keep that in mind. Again, just another reason why we'll get into the math of it in the offseason, why you want to wait. So there's Josh Allen. No surprises there. You and I are not going to have any disagreements going into next year. Josh Allen will here and forever, unless something majorly changes, be the number one quarterback, ranked the number one quarterback drafted. His rushing, along with him being the entire team and willing that team as far as he could go, it just makes him what it is. Now, you and I are big believers in the DJ Moore situation now going into next year.
Yeah.
I still think that keeps Josh Allen number one, but I don't think I'm going to draft him in the second round.
No, I'm not going to draft in the second round. Like I said earlier, he's a player that you can package value player. Like when you're looking to develop depth for your roster early on, because maybe injuries happen early on. Same thing like later in the season. You know what your roster is constructed of, like maybe by, week 9, 10 at that point. And when you have a lot of depth at certain positions, and some of these players that teams that don't have the depth, that AKA Josh Allen owner who drafted him in the first or second round, or first would be silly, but second round, um, you can really go after one of those guys and basically sell valued running backs that you maybe just be sitting on your bench, or a starter, or a starter that's in a flex position. Throw him for Josh Allen and you get it back a RB2 or RB3 in return. So
Right.
you get value back and you capitalize on your quarterback play, and you're set for the rest of the year. And that's your league winning, strategy right there.
Yeah, and one of the things about that is, and again, we'll talk about the math in the offseason, but because at the running back and wide receiver position, you're taking lots of shots on them, even if you're already getting studs at the top of the draft, because you're taking lots of shots on them, you're mitigating yourself against injury. When you're taking a stud quarterback or tight end, for example, you're only taking one of them. And so you're not protecting yourself against injury, which happen all the time.
Yeah.
Anybody who went and spent a high draft pick on Brock Bowers know what we're talking about. Like, it hurts. So Josh Allen's as good as they get, but there's risk there if, God forbid, he were to get injured. So,
Hmm.
I mean, you and I have always said this. I think you and I have always agreed on this. I would say for us, the way that we usually play fantasy football, he would have to fall to the fourth round for us to make that
Which
investment,
doesn't happen.
which
The only
doesn't
time
happen.
Which so the only time that we've seen that happen is in live drafts off of, off of the computer. When you're doing paper live drafts in person with friends and you don't have a computer in front of you, people roll with what's being drafted sometimes and it just is a hot stick. And that pushes back some of these valued quarterbacks to some of these later rounds. And then you start making your picks at that point. So,
Yeah.
but
So there we go. Josh Allen, I mean, we could talk about it endlessly. So he's in a league of his own. And so there you go, Josh Allen. So the next couple guys though are definitely interesting. Then basically let's just lump in the next three because they basically came out of nowhere, completely almost undrafted, depending on whatever league you were in. So finishing at number two is Drake May. Finishing at number three is Matt Stafford, MVP Matt Stafford. And finishing at number four is Trevor Lawrence, who for the second half of the year was the best quarterback in fantasy football.
mhm.
Um, so now, do you think Stafford is the easy one to say he's not going to put up another 46 touchdowns? And I think that's about fair. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of maybe a kind of an outlier type of season for him. I still think he's going to have a good year. But of the three of these guys, who do you think takes the biggest fall?
The biggest fall I feel is Stafford.
Still, okay.
Yeah. I still believe Stafford is going to take the biggest fall. Now, he'll finish in the top 12 next year because he has all that value around him, to be honest.
Devontae,
But
Puka, etc.
yeah, but like, he's going to be an overdrafted asset going into next year. I'll stay completely away from him. If he's there in the maybe the ninth, 10th round, maybe I'll take him. Because he will be a starting quarterback. But again, the age thing really shakes me a little bit because you look at it, this is definitely like we thought this was going to be his last year. Next year is definitely going to be his last year.
For sure.
Um, Same thing with Aaron Rodgers if he decides to sign with the Steelers one more time. But but one last ride. But I think Stafford is the one that takes the biggest hit here. I think Drake May is going to stay up at the top three for the next couple of years.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Drake May,
Yeah,
I wasn't so high on Drake May, but I liked the value. But there was a lot of people that were just so overly hyped on him, which, rightfully so. He finished where he finished. He was one of the most consistent quarterbacks throughout the entire year. Finishing with 21 and a half fantasy points per game. Just a fantastic year.
yeah. From beginning to end, he was giving Stafford a run for his money for the MVP there.
Hmm.
Again, it's one of the things I want to caution people with, and we've seen it. We saw it with Washington, and we might see it again with the Patriots coming next year. They had the easiest schedule known to man last year, and they basically waltzed their way into the Super Bowl based on what Tommy would say was some questionable officiating in certain games and some other things that caused
Tommy
other.
and 95% of the population would say.
Yeah. So, you know, that being said, I can't deny that they really did have an easy road to everything that they did. They're going to have a very difficult schedule next year, a very difficult schedule. Keep it in mind, they're in line for a regression. That being said, they did acquire Romeo Dobbs, the rumor mill is with AJ Brown and all that. So we'll see if that comes to fruition.
But
But
he's not a wide receiver one because he wasn't a wide receiver one on Green Bay. So
So keep that in mind. Again, if he's going to be drafted very high, he's probably not going to be on our teams anyway because we wait on quarterbacks. But he turned out to be great for you because again, he's a good example of quarterbacks you could have waited on because you could have had him in the 88th round and then he goes and wins you your league. So he's very good pick for what he was. And let's just spend 2 seconds on Trevor Lawrence. I don't know how much praise we
can
can
I
heap
say
on him.
one thing? Oh, sorry, before
Oh,
we talk
oh,
about
sure,
Trevor
sure.
Lawrence, Matthew Stafford at number three. Do you know how many yards he had rushing last year?
Oh, Stafford, was it?
Yes.
It was like under 50 or something.
He had negative two.
Did he? I was
Negative 2 yards throughout 17 weeks.
I wonder how many games those were positive. Probably like one. Yeah,
Negative two.
yeah, that sounds like Stafford. Yeah, so Trevor Lawrence, so really second half of the year, he wasn't just the best quarterback, he was blowing people away. I mean, he basically helped win you a championship. Week 15, 44.3 points, 16, 31 points, 17, 24 points. Unbelievable finish to the season. So here's a deal. We're not really sure what's going to happen with Brian Thomas, but he's still there. So we're talking about a lot of weapons they have. And to your point, if they're not going to overcommit to running the ball, then it's bombs away for Trevor again, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, they have three really good wide receivers, not including Hunter. Um, I think
right.
Hunter's going to, I think they're going to try to plug him in at defense if they hold on to Brian Thomas. Um, they have so much opportunity there, especially like we talked about with the running back situation. Chris Rodriguez is basically a ground and pound guy. It's going to give the opportunity for them to really just focus on throwing the ball. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, he only threw for 37-52 last year, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, but he rushed for 348 yards, had nine rushing touchdowns. Um, so, the players that they have back there now, I think are more of the ball carriers that they need in order for him to, stand a little bit more upright. And they're also good pass blockers as well, too. Um, for pass protection. So I think that this is a really good situation for Trevor Lawrence to be very productive next year passing the ball.
I agree. I was impressed with what I saw. I had very low hopes for Jacksonville, and and again, they made me eat some crow. And now it basically took them until the second half of the year after their bye to really take off, but they did. And, I was
Hey
very
man,
impressed. So
I got to be honest. I mean, I remember when we scheduled our tickets to go to the Jacksonville Jets game. You said that they're going to be two worst teams, and I was like, no, Jacksonville's going to have a good year. I think Jacksonville's going to probably be in the playoff race to make the playoffs. And little did we
well,
know.
little that I know. Now they finished in first place, so they're going to have a first place schedule going into next year. So it's going to be tough. We'll see how they respond to it. So let's talk about number five, our darling from last year.
Oh
And I
yeah,
felt like it could have been better too, but it was good as what it was. Finishing number five is Dak Prescott. You
with the
draft
most passing yards.
the most passing yards. You drafted him as the quarterback 11. And that's interesting that you bring that up because if not for Javonte Williams, he probably would have had a lot more passing touchdowns,
He
I
would have
think.
he would have eclipsed 5,000 yards.
Yeah, and a lot of more touchdowns. And he did this basically with CeeDee Lamb in and out the lineup. So now he's going to have the exact same set of receivers. George Pickens is going to be there unless Jerry does some nonsense or something and trades him at the last second, which is possible, but let's assume he's going to be there. CeeDee Lamb will be back at full health. Um, same coaching staff. They re-signed Javonte Williams, and it should be more of the same at the from their offensive perspective. So now, unless we do the red light, green light with Dak again, then hopefully we get some good stuff out of this.
Yeah, I did say it. It's red light this year coming up. So maybe he breaks that trend. So
Maybe. Well, let's go to number six, which is, yes, definitely a sexier name. So finishing at number six is Caleb Williams. You draft him as the quarterback 15. He returned value there, but honestly, the inconsistency might have killed you with what he was doing. But we're
yeah.
hoping that he could take another step forward. Now, he lost DJ Moore, but now we're going to get some sort of an ascension of Luther Burden, Roman Dunze, and we already saw Colston Loveland break out a little bit at the end of last year. So no reason to think he can't improve a little bit from an efficiency standpoint, right?
I don't know. I think they gave up DJ Moore a little too early. Um, Even though he was not being utilized nearly as much, I think that's what him not being utilized that much was a lot of the inconsistency that really showed a lot of flaws with Caleb last year. So I think that this could be a little bit of a tight year next year.
Really?
Yeah, I think the Bears are gonna they're gonna unless they draft fantastic, which there's a possibility that they could go out there and get a wide receiver that that adds to the collection over there. But I just think that I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing them being as successful as they were last year going into this year.
Okay. Okay. You know something? I might, again, this is another team that might have overperformed in let's call it the down years of Minnesota and Detroit. So they themselves are going to have a very difficult schedule next year. So maybe you're right. We'll get
They
into
were, and the crazy thing is, they were a couple minutes away from going to the NFC Championship and getting slaughtered by the Seattle Seahawks.
that's
So,
right. Yeah, that wouldn't have even been close. Oh my gosh. So we'll see how they do about that. Finishing at number 7, Bo Nix. You draft them as the quarterback 8.
and that was a rough start too.
Yeah, the Bo Nix situation is really interesting because, yeah, speaking of inconsistency, and that's honestly, that's the word here because that's what it felt like. It felt so aggravating watching a lot of these games. This is the same guy who, came back against the Giants, right? All in the fourth quarter, however
Ugh,
many
I just
running
threw up on my mouth.
touchdowns, etc.
I was in Atlanta. I was in Atlanta for a work trip Tuesday and Wednesday this week, and they were playing that game while we were watching the Venezuela versus the USA game, and
Uh,
I just like couldn't look to my left to watch that because I knew exactly what was going to happen. I felt really, really happy, and then I was like, they're going to lose this game. Please, like, let this be like a reversal, please.
Yeah, and I mean, but that's what he and that team is capable of. And then they go and they can only put up 13 points against the Raiders and barely beat them, Like
On
that's the,
Thursday Night Football.
I know, that's the kind of team that this was. I mean, it felt like they played to their competition and they did just whatever they needed to do to figure out a way to win. And again, it got them to an AFC West title, the number 1 seed, etc. And then it all fell apart when, he got hurt. So he's going to have to improve on his consistency. Hopefully, Jalen Waddle can help with that. We already believe in the young wide receivers anyway there. So
Mhm.
he's running out of excuses as to why he can't be more consistent. He'll be healthy and ready to go. Again, this is going to be another team that's going to have a super difficult schedule to play. So, it remains to be seen. I'm surprised he ended up finishing that high, to be honest, even in total points, as inconsistent
Yeah,
as it was.
it was interesting. He was probably him and Caleb were probably one of the most inconsistent players at
Yeah.
this top of the list right here. That made it where they are. And it is interesting that where they fell. But obviously, there was points in the year where you couldn't even start these guys, and then they finished off where they finished off. So,
Yeah, that's the
they
least. That
some of them were waiver wire guys that got you to where you needed to be.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's a good point that you bring that up. What you want out of players, and especially like onesie positions, especially the quarterback position, is you want some predictability. You don't want to have a player that he's sitting on your bench because it's hard to drop him, and then he goes and puts up 30 points on your bench because you couldn't predict that. And then, okay, I'm going to go put him in, and then he puts up 8 points. Like that's not what you want. That's not what you want. And you couldn't have, it would have hurt you if you just left
Yeah.
him in there. So. Finishing at number 8, for different reasons is Jalen Hurts. You draft him as the quarterback 4, so not good.
Yep.
I know you believe he's not a good quarterback in general. We'll get to that at some point in the offseason. We'll have that discussion. That being said, from a fantasy perspective, he has always delivered, which is true.
I mean,
Not so much this year
Yeah,
though.
yeah, because the tush push was like every game he was like guaranteed to score a touchdown. He had like what 16 touchdowns on the ground past two
Basically.
years. You
Yeah.
know, the thing is, the guy, quarterbacks don't throw for 3,200 yards. You're not an efficient quarterback if you're throwing for 3,200 yards.
Well, maybe they didn't need to. I could make that argument.
Need to. They needed to do something. Whatever they were doing was not working.
Well, the second half of the year was nowhere near as good the first half of the year. It wasn't so good. It left you scrambling if you ended up just leaving him in there every single game. I mean, you had an unbelievable week 12, but that was like mostly it. And obviously he killed you in the championship week. So I don't know. It's going to be hard. And by the way, they're definitely banning the tush push going into next year. That there's no way. There's no way that
There's
lasts.
And if they do that, then you know what happens? Jalen Hurts is not even a top 10 quarterback.
I won't draft him there. I agree. There's so much more exciting stuff to go. Now in a 4 point passing touchdown league, I wonder if he'll still crack it for us. He's still a running quarterback. It's
He will
still
not be a top 10 quarterback
even in that.
if the tush push is vetoed, 86th, he will not be a top 10 quarterback.
I'll order some scrambled eggs. Yeah. So
86 that.
no, you're probably right. Um, yep. So say goodbye. Let's talk about number 9, Justin Herbert. You draft him as the quarterback 14. So okay, finished, got you a little value back there, and it was looking pretty good. It was for a while. There was a little bit, a couple of lows in there, but I mean, he did have the injury, and at some point during the season, you had the implosion of their offensive line. So I feel like maybe it's a bit of a wash, and like don't count that against them. A failure of their offensive line, he got injured, etc.
Yeah.
I guess that is what it is.
I think
They've got
going into next year, because with Harbaugh over there, I think that he, was obviously focused as a running coach, like running schemed coach. He let Justin Herbert's freak flag fly through that last through the season.
right. He's moving
Um,
away from his moniker there, you know.
yeah, which is good. Which is good because maybe his moniker was like that because he had 9 back there at Michigan, but Justin Herbert is a quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback, and he would finish in the top 5 if he had a solid offensive line in front of him the entire season, keeping him
Well,
upright.
Harbaugh did that at Stanford, and he did that when he was with the 49ers too. But I suppose I could make that argument with, Kaepernick and whatever else was going on with Stanford. So I guess that's a fair point. I have high hopes for Justin Herbert next year. I have a feeling we're going to have him ranked higher than ADP, judging
Yeah, I
by what
mean,
we feel about it.
a
So
quarterback, Justin Herbert. You know how many times he got sacked last year?
a lot.
54 times.
Yeah, it's a lot, man.
Yeah. So if he was,
David Carr.
let's just say if he was sacked 32 times like Jalen Hurts was, who's terrible. Um, and Justin Herbert was able to throw for 3,700 yards. He probably would have had if he had like a millisecond or another half a second to be able to throw the ball, probably would have finished off 4,200 yards, and probably 32 sacks, taken. So
Okay. Let's talk about number 10. This is going to be a little bit of a convo here. So finishing at number 10 is Patrick Mahomes, which is interesting considering that he didn't play the last couple weeks of the season. If you just take his averages, he would have finished top 3.
he
Uh,
he missed week 16 and 17.
yeah. So here's the deal with him, and we're not going to take this into different areas of a conversation, which we kind of already touched upon in the offseason. I think Patrick Mahomes was willing this team basically by himself to where they were in a competitive thing. That team would have been like 1 in 16 if not for him. And you guys saw how bad it was at the end of the season without him. Um, which is amazing considering that he was willing himself to fantasy goodness for the first half of the season. To some degree, it was a little more inconsistent after that. Here's the deal, though. He cannot do it himself. He cannot do it all on smoke and mirrors, dancing around, scampering for a couple of yards, dumping it off to random wide receiver
No,
three-esque.
because that's how you get injured.
And that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. I mean, it can't
And
happen
he got he
forever,
got and he got he got a season-ending injury for an irrelevant game because they were already out of it.
basically. Where they were close to mathematically eliminated. One thing I heard in the rumor mill, Tommy, I don't know if you heard this. So
That it
obviously,
was a
Matt,
fake injury.
no, let's not do that. But obviously, Matt Nagy was let go, and he's been replaced by Eric Bieniemy, which you and I both liked because different reasons, but we like Eric Bieniemy better for that team than Matt Nagy.
Yeah, Matt Nagy's now my offensive coordinator.
Right. We think Eric Bieniemy is a lot better. One of the things that was being suggested in the media is that partially why Mahomes is having to do all this nonsense is because of the position that Nagy is putting him in or was putting him in. Maybe Eric Bieniemy was a little bit more, all right, stand back and fire it deep or whatever. At least you're more protected that way. So we'll see what happens. They need some help. He can't do it himself, even if he comes back from this injury, whatever happens with Justin Fields. But that's the thing. He's the best quarterback in football. It is what it is. From a fantasy perspective, though, he was doing okay until he got injured. We'll see where we have him ranked for next year. If he's not going to play X amount of games in, it's going to be hard for us to have him drafted at all for a
He's gonna
while.
miss a quarter of the year, the first quarter of the year.
Okay. Well, you heard it here first.
Here,
Let's
here, Fantasy Football University.
let's talk about number 11 real quick. Finishing at number 11, we know what Jared Goff is, man. He's got he finished at number 11, drafted at 12, whatever. We know what he is. He's got the ability to go nuclear, put up 5 touchdowns and 700 yards, and to have another game where he puts up no touchdowns, throws a pick, and they still win by 40. It was a down year for them offensively. I think that's going to bounce back significantly next year. But Jared Goff is always going to be a very low end quarterback one, high end quarterback two in totality, with weeks in which you could play him as a smash play, right? That's what we see him.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, he had a fantastic year. I think he had a really, really fantastic year. This is actually the first year in 3 years that he threw for under. He didn't have double digits, double digit interceptions.
Right.
Um, this last year he had where is it? He only had sorry,
Well, what?
seven interceptions in week 1 through 17.
Right.
Um, and he had 2 interceptions in that Minnesota game. That was the weirdest fumbles, the weirdest turnovers that you can ever see from Jared Goff. Like thinking that like somebody was paying somebody money to do something like that.
Oh, that's your favorite thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't, but
But if those like say he only had one turnover, one interception, that's 6 turnovers the entire fantasy football year. Like that's fantastic. That's great.
it
Like,
is.
you're
It's
not
a
getting negative points.
No, it's an efficient year from an NFL perspective, but it's that's unfortunately not going to cut it for fantasy because
No.
you can't have games where, great, in week two, he puts up 34 points. There he is, bash Jared Goff, let's go. And then the next game, 12.7 points. You can't have that. You can't. That's not the kind of volatility that you need.
No,
34
but I
points,
mean,
12 points,
but in
13
all
points.
reality, he was, you going into the year, you knew he was going to be some sort of streamer for you. Like he
Right,
was not going to be your solidified quarterback. But there was games where you just like, I have to play him. Like there's no way. Like he is your
right.
starting quarterback.
That that's the thing. He's good with predictability. You can find him in great matchups or matchups in which you think that they're going to have to air it out a little bit more. And it's like, and you're right. Like that's when you throw him in there for sure.
Yeah, and Campbell doesn't let up. Like he's gonna throttle points.
Yeah, he doesn't
So
care.
yeah,
Well, let's talk about number 12. This one's gonna hurt both of us, man. So
yeah.
finishing at number 12, and we had him in two different leagues and we both got hurt, is Baker Mayfield. You draft him as the quarterback 7, and for the first half of the year, Baker Mayfield looked like basically the best pick in from a quarterback perspective. He was doing well, consistent, crushing it. And then somewhere right before the bye, he gets injured. Remember, it was like, oh, are they going to throw Bridgewater in? And they didn't. He ended up playing or whatever. And you think, as I think, that he was just injured for the rest of the year, basically.
Yeah, he had 97 snap percentage in against New Orleans. He's slightly injured towards the end of the game, but he wasn't playing well.
Lightly.
Yeah, slightly. But then, the bye, he had 100% snap percentage, 99, and then 56 against the Los Angeles Rams. That was the game that basically really hurt, took him out fully, pretty much half the game. So, and he was playing injured throughout the entire season. That whole team was playing injured throughout the entire season. Um,
Yeah.
so, that was a big component right there. On top of that, they lost their offensive coordinator of the year that year, and to what you call it, for he went to Jacksonville.
Yes.
Um, so
Now they
there
have
was a
they lost their offensive coordinator again. So he's gonna have another offensive coordinator,
yeah, but Baker is a journeyman. He's been through what, like 17 coaches in the NFL career,
basically, and a
Yeah,
different offensive
so
coordinator every single year.
yeah,
So
and he is the player that went over to in the middle of the season, went over to the Los Angeles Rams on Monday Night Football and crushed.
well, for
So
a little bit anyway.
he's a dude. He's a dude, not disguised as another dude, but he is a dude that I believe is going to continue to be successful. Going to next year, he should be healthy. They're in a they're in a ascending division. They're
We
in a
think.
yeah, I think they're in an ascending division. They're getting younger, and a lot of the teams are getting a lot better. Pretty good coaches around that division as well too. But I still think that they still have the greatest value assets around them. Um, and Baker has, a lot of chemistry with the players that he's been playing with. So I think that he's going to he might be underdrafted next year, but I think he's going to finish if he's healthy, where he uh should have finished this year, which was in the top five.
Well, then we're gonna like him then because if he's gonna be underdrafted and he's gonna have a top 10, top 12 finish, we're gonna be all over it then. And
Hmm.
it's not just because of the departure of Mike Evans. It's not like we think that the receiving options in Tampa Bay have fallen by the wayside. They've got some great options there. Ibuka's coming back for a second year. McMillions, Godwin again. I mean, there's a lot of good things to
Hez
like about it.
Johnson.
That's right. Not to mention, you've got the greatest pass catching running back ever, Kenneth Gainwell, has now joined the team. So,
Kenneth Gainwell and
and Bucky are,
Bucky
yeah,
Irving.
they're going to be 50-50 it. So there's things to like about it. Hopefully he comes back healthy and there's no nonsense with this and he has a good pairing with 38th offensive coordinator that he's had. So,
Yep, which is fine.
yeah.
He could have a different offense quarter each and every single week and he'll be fine.
So that is the top 12 quarterbacks. We got definitely a couple guys that I'm interested in mentioning. I'm sure you want to mention probably the same guys too. Real quick, let's just mention Jordan Love, who did finish at number 13. He did miss a game or two in there. So the problem was a level of inconsistency, and you got Josh Jacobs swallowing up so many rushing touchdowns. I bring him up specifically, Tommy, because he is a person online being talked about as somebody who is going to be sleeper finishing in the top five next year. You've been notoriously anti Jordan Love, basically in our analysis the past couple of years or whatever. Do you see that happening, or do you think people are getting maybe they're getting ahead of themselves, or what do you see with that?
Guys, stay away from Jordan Love still, please.
Okay, until when? Because he did finish top five as a
Until they get a
rookie.
wide receiver one.
Okay. Yeah, well, they've got Golden and Wicks and Reed come for
No
next
wide
year.
receiver
So
ones. Maybe put all of them together, a wide receiver one.
okay. Well, anyway, he finishes at 13, drafted as an afterthought, very inconsistent. Definitely wouldn't have helped your team. But let's talk about number 15. Finishing at number 15 was Daniel Jones. Whatever, undrafted, but first half of the year, pretty awesome, right?
Top two. Top two.
That's right. Can he come back from that injury and be close to what he was next year?
Well, they did pay him for 2 years. He's going to be making 82 or 88 million or something like that for the next 2 years. So, he's making, yeah, he's 88 million. So he's making 45 million. So he's just $1 million under Patrick Mahomes' per year contract. So they are thoroughly invested in him. And, for them to restructure and to give him a contract and extension, that just is only good signs for him to be back week one.
Okay. Let's talk about number 16 real quick. Finishing at 16 is Jackson Dart, and I bring him up
Yep, my
because,
boy Blue.
yeah, Jackson Dart, the games that he didn't play, his average was well within the top 10 of quarterbacks here, and people kept, you know, denying that he was going to do it, not believing in him. He got it done against the Eagles. He got it done against almost every team that he was playing against. I got it. There's a game or two that it was bad. He's going to have some growing pains as a rookie. But we talked about it a little bit, Tommy. Let's take your homerism out of it. The Giants objectively have a really good looking offense going into next year.
And
So
really good looking defense right now too,
that's right. So there's a lot to be optimistic about
and a
here.
really good coach.
Really good, just a bad offensive coordinator.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be on the Jackson Dart train. I hope that his ADP is not overly inflated going into next year because then he's not going to be on our teams. I mean,
He's gonna it's gonna be over. He's gonna be over drafted,
I
early
know.
drafted next year, which is
Yeah,
fine. Um, that passes on a lot of value. There's gonna be a lot of quarterbacks out there, that can produce. The one thing I do like about these quarterbacks that are actually being consistent or be able to produce is um there's just you could like we said earlier, you could pass on the highest value quarterback and get a talent that's going to ride you out and not have to worry about that onesie position. You can wait and wait and wait and wait, and you're going to find value. Just
Sure.
just just hold,
Yeah,
and
that's
you'll be fine.
yeah. I mean, think of all the names we're throwing out now. Like you can start any number of these guys on given weeks, whatever, you know. So the question is, could you draft a guy and then have him be your starter, you know, through consistently throughout the year? And some of these guys, it's a bit of an open question. Jackson Dart might be one of those guys. So we'll keep an eye on that for next year.
Hmm.
Let's talk about number 17 and number 38 in the same breath here. So finishing at number 17 is Jacoby Brissett. Finishing at number 38 is Kyler. Kyler, you drafted as the quarterback nine, completely failed you, did not return any value there, although was semi halfway decent for the first leading into their bye and then didn't play another game. I don't believe that that injury was real. I think that they just sat him down because he was blowing it as the quarterback for the Cardinals. Whatever, they got him out of there, and now he's a quarterback for the Vikings.
Yeah, he had an NIL deal with COD.
But we already talked about him a little bit at the top. We could see him being at least, let's call it more than serviceable for the Vikings, at least for the service for the sake of Justin Jefferson. So,
Yeah.
and I'm sure he'll have some big spike weeks in there. But Jacoby Brissett, and you talked about this when we mentioned the Gardner Minshew thing. So, second half of the year, Jacoby Brissett was basically the second best quarterback behind Trevor Lawrence for the second half of the year. He had one game where he did not finish in the top 12 of quarterback for the second half of the year. And not just the second half of the year, every single game that he started since before their bye. He had an unbelievable year. And judging by how they got their new coach, LaFleur, and the personnel that they have, there's no reason to think he's not going to air it out on their way to a 1-16 record, but they're going to air it out every single play there.
Well, let me tell you something right now. He had five less games starting than Jalen Hurts, and he had 100 less yards throwing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was on pace. I think the number was like 700 plus attempts the season. That's what his pace would have been, which is crazy. So maybe you don't need 700 attempts, 500 to 600 attempts. You're going to love the options there in Arizona, and you're going to love him as a streaming quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah. So good on for Jacoby Brissett. We're going to feel pretty good about Harrison and Wilson going to next year. Let's talk about number 20, Lamar Jackson. You draft him as a quarterback too, so that failed.
Yeah.
Um, do you think he was just playing hurt, or do you think there was more shenanigans going on there?
Well, I believe he was playing hurt, but then I early in the season, I think that just kind of I think there was obviously a lot of animosity that was going on with the coaching. So that's why, Harbaugh is out and now is a Giants coach. They favored, the vocal point of that team, just overall organization. They believe that obviously Lamar Jackson is the guy. I will be real with you. I think his career is coming close to an end.
Maybe.
Not maybe 3 4 more years and I think it's over.
Well,
Um,
his time as an absolute elite quarterback might be limited,
yeah.
especially. So I we
And
we also
I know that's really risky for me to say. I mean, but the guy is 29 years old. He's going into his 30th year in 2026, 2027. He's be 30 years old as a running quarterback that doesn't have the greatest arm. He when he is successful in fantasy and on the field, he's a multi-diversal quarterback. Um, and obviously you have Henry back there, but it just seems like Henry's not happy right now. There's a lot of things happening back there. So I'm not sure if this is the greatest situation. We'll see what happens coaching wise. But I'm not too keen on leveling up Lamar Jackson for the next coming years.
yeah, we talked about this not just with the Harbaugh departure, but just a lot of other things going on with the Ravens. You and I are both in agreement. We think the Ravens take a pretty big step back this coming year, and so we're probably gonna reflect that in all of their fantasy options.
Yeah, I
And
mean they went out, they
is
got Trey
among them.
Hendrickson. They
Yeah, we
they
didn't.
re they pushed back and they the first ever I think like this is the first ever we got Max Crosby. But oh wait, hold on. 3 days later. Yeah, we're not doing that trade anymore because we're going to be able to get Hendrickson. Oh, we actually wanted to get both of them on our roster, but we just didn't have the cap for it. So get out of
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Just say what it is. You got a guy that was more affordable. That's what. Just be honest about it.
Yeah, you didn't give up a number one pick for it.
Basically, yeah. Let's talk about number 24, Brock Purdy. Okay, you draft him as the quarterback 10, not good. However, when Brock Purdy played, he was top four, top three
When Brock Purdy
quarterback.
played, he was the number
Unbelievable.
two quarterback in fantasy points per game.
Right. And if you take out, I guess, one of the ones that he like halfway, had to step out in, I mean, he was great. And
He averaged 22.7 points per
I
game.
know he was so
That's
good.
less than a full point than Josh Allen's fantasy points per game.
Yeah, and he's going to be propped up to some degree by really, really great options that he has around him. Definitely helped by Christian McCaffrey in the passing
If
game.
yeah, if if they hold up in practice,
Well, that's true. I mean, you got
they
Evans.
gotta move their practice facility away from that electrical system.
I'm going to feel pretty confident in in this sort of trend to continue next year because I believe in Tonjes in Kittle's absence, and I think Evans can keep it together for the first part of the year at least. So, and you believe in Pearsall, right? So, we should be feeling pretty good about Purdy, and he proved it to us. So you can't scoff at his points per game. Hopefully, he himself could stay healthy. Let's talk about number 28, my favorite player from last year, Tyler Shook. So it took a while for him to even start. And then after he started, he had some growing pains. However, from weeks 13 through 17, one of the best quarterbacks in football, which is crazy out of nowhere. Helped me win a championship. I'm sure a lot of people who were able to throw him in there. I have high hopes for the Saints going into next year. I liked what I saw from them. And to your point, it's an ascending division, but it's a division nonetheless that is very winnable. It's not like any of the teams in there look like they're going to just pull away. It's going to be competitive division. They're going to have every chance to go in there and try to win. So we like what we see from that. And you're such a fan of Olave. I think that Shook can absolutely support an Olave, another high finish for him again. So
Mhm.
I'm all about Shook. Um, let's just quickly mention, I know I kind of skipped over him. Number 23, Cam Ward. So I know he's one of your darlings. You think he takes the next step up next year?
100%. I think coaching changes over there a little bit more. Rob Saleh there. Brian Daboll is over there, which I'm not too happy. I don't like Brian Daboll as a head coach, but I think offensive coordinator, he's a good offensive coordinator. I think he's going to bring out the best in Cam Ward, and I think Cam Ward's going to take the next turn. They did bring in obviously some assets from the Giants. Wan'Dale Robinson they overpaid for, but they got him now. Um,
He'll
and they
help.
have a
He'll
lot.
help. He'll help
He'll
Cam.
help. He'll help, but he's not going to get 144 targets. Um, but they have a lot of good assets over there that is really going to help Cam Ward take it to the next level. And they're going to have a decent running game, and they got some offensive line upgrades. So I think he's going to have a lot better season. He's going to be a valid streamer next year, maybe starter for, some weeks. He may be a Jared Goff-esque kind of play.
Maybe. Yeah. Pick your spots and pick your matchups and throw them in if you need it.
Hmm.
So we liked what we saw from him towards the very end of last year too. Um, Well, to close this out, let's talk about, and both of them, we could probably lump them in. So, finishing basically tied, literally exactly tied at quarterback 33 with the exact same amount of total points, and they're both there for the same reasons, injury, is Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels. Joe Burrow was drafted as the quarterback 5. Jade Daniels was drafted as the quarterback 3. Both failed you. Both completely due to injury, but at different varying times. Both players were good in the games that they actually played. For the most part, it's just they just couldn't bite the injury bug. And Joe Burrow, I mean, we talked about it, like it was bound to happen partially because of his offensive line, but he ends up coming back, has a good, finish to the year. Jaden Daniels, you didn't even want him to play at some
Yeah.
point because Washington was just eliminated. So you're like, why are they even
And
attempting to throw him in there?
yeah, well, they were because of Hard Knocks. I made it very clear.
That's such a reason.
It wasn't even a narrative. It was like it literally, if you look at his stats and the games he played, it's truth. Like they were like, you got to get in there. You got to make a narrative. You got to go out there and start playing. Oh, you're gonna fail. You're gonna get hurt again. All right, then you're done. Like, no, come on. Like that was so dumb, so dumb. Just let Marcus Mariota play. Just don't put in your don't like that was I don't even know if that was a coach's decision. I think, because the coaches back there at Washington are so very smart. I think that was just a network coming down on the team saying, you gotta play the players. You gotta get him out there. I don't care if he got one elbow. He gotta get out there and do it.
This is such an accusation. I, uh, it's hard to imagine Dan Quinn being pressured by network executives to throw in that quarterback, and then,
He's got a whole off season to get ready for next year.
I don't know.
He has
Uh,
$10 million.
I we've already had this discussion. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you and the larger internet at where, the moment that somebody's injured and the team is eliminated, therefore you don't play them the rest of the year. I don't know if I agree with that narrative just on its surface. That being said, in this particular case, I'm not sure why they threw him out there because he was not ready.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Both players are going to be back ready to go next year. You believe more than I do in Washington in general for next year. Um, I still think Jaden Daniels is still extremely good. So both Burrow and Daniels will be highly drafted next year. I actually think Burrow is going to be overdrafted next year personally. Um, but I guess we'll get to that when we get to it. So before we close out, did you want to do any closing thoughts on quarterback 37?
Nope. Shador Sanders is booty. Let's move on. We
Uh, well, real
already did
quick,
a show on him.
we
He's
already did a whole
terrible.
we did a whole show. I'm not going to say those exact words. You did. So
Yep.
I will
Well,
say,
I will bring back my booty comment, and he is booty.
all right. Let me ask you this: who's the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns since 2026? I want it on
I
record.
would,
I want it
I
on
would.
paper, on record.
You want what I hope is going to be, or what I
No, what
believe is
you think
going to
is
be?
actually going to happen.
It's going to be Shador Sanders.
I think they're going to find a way to stick Deshaun Watson in there.
No. Todd Monken is on Shador Sanders' sides. That's what's
Really?
happening. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's going to be Shador Sanders.
Then what are they
Um,
doing with Deshaun Watson then?
I wish, because they paid him so much money.
I know, but hasn't he eclipsed the okay, now they're past it. Now they could just cut him or whatever
He's
now?
got he's got a guaranteed contract.
That's been for the last, I know, but it's years now have passed. I mean, how many years is this contract for?
I don't know, but they should just Bobby Bonilla him and call it a day.
I was about to say Deshaun Bobby Bonilla Watson.
Yeah.
We can't call him anything else.
What I wish they were gonna do was continue with Dylan Gabriel because he showed a lot of promise. Yes, he showed a lot of rookie flaws, but I
Yes.
believe that he can be a very, very valuable quarterback for this team that does not need to throw the ball 50% of the time.
No, but we have to be fair. What we felt about Dylan Gabriel was he was good at not making mistakes, but he wasn't doing much. Like it's hard to
But
see
but
somebody
he
like
but
him push the
doing
ball
but
down the field,
but here's the thing. If those games that he wasn't doing much, they were winning games or being competitive in the games because their defense was not suffocated on the field so much.
I
They were
understand.
controlling the ball on the ground the right way.
I understand that. I could counter that. I got to give you the old Steve Smith quote. Uh, the quarterback position seems to be the only position where you can say about a guy, well, we need to limit him to get to his full potential. Like this is it's not the right way to think we're going to limit a player. This is you're supposed to be this is the NFL, you know?
He knew how to protect the ball. He threw for 2 interceptions. Shador Sanders threw for 10.
I know, but they punted the ball basically every drive, you know. I'm not saying that he should not have been playing. I'm just saying it's hard to think that Dylan Gabriel would have been their savior either, you know. But I still think Watson's going to play. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. So there we go. That is the full breakdown of quarterbacks from 2025. Before we close out, I'm curious, who do you think early thoughts is going to be one of our darlings, like our sleeper targets going into next year? Remember, Dak Prescott was and it ended up working out. So early thoughts, who's an early sleeper target of ours?
Uh, I think Tyler Show is somebody that I have high interest in. Um, or Shuck, however you want to pronounce it.
Shook, like I shook my shoulders.
Um, but going back to the top 12, there's a guy that finished in the ladder of Justin Herbert, who I would throw my money on there. I believe that there's going to be some players that are going to be, that finished outside the top 12 that will be drafted above him. And he could be a 10, 11 round, 10th or 11th round guy that could finish in the top five, should finish in the top five next year.
I agree. We're going to start taking a look at ADP maybe a little bit after the NFL draft. And if it's low enough, I think we're both going to be on the Justin Herbert train. I agree with you
Yep.
100%. So there we go. Thank you guys for staying with us. Closing thoughts, Mr. Lang?
Yeah, we truly appreciate everybody that takes the time to watch our video. So if you could please like, share, and subscribe, we would greatly appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.